Thank y'all for coming today. This is kind of unfolded in the last, I guess, just this week. Yesterday I got a call from one of you that inquired about a number of things on roads and bridges, and I just felt like because there's a lot of discussion about this issue, we ought to have just let everybody come in here and let's talk about it and tell you what we're doing on the House side. First thing I would like the point I would like to make is that the question was asked me yesterday by this reporter that I was talking to, you know, what are we going to, when are y'all going to start addressing this, or something to that effect. And so the first thing I did was make the point that we in the House have been addressing this. For 2 years now, we have pushed on this issue. We have made this an issue. We have brought forward a number of ideas, a number of proposals, both last year and this year, and we have taken this for 2 years now as a serious issue. I guess on the one hand glad that others are now finally deciding that this is something we need to address, but I also want to point out the fact that the House has been leading on this issue for 2 years now. So we are not caught off guard by this. We are pushing, we are preparing, we are coming forward with ideas and plans, and so we are addressing that. I guess I will address the two different issues. One is the current situation. As I understand it, the federal government came in here 8 or 9 months ago and declared a number of bridges around this state to be deficient. Ordered some of them to be closed. As I understand it, some of them were not closed, and that has then prompted the federal government to call again and say, y'all better get these bridges closed or we're going to do something. That prompted the governor to issue the executive order, which I think he issued either Friday or Monday of this week, to close those bridges. You okay over there? And those bridges were closed. So we this year in the session put $50 million into the LSBP program. Normally, or historically I should say, that number's about 20 million. So I feel like we have provided funds right now this year that can be used to help address that current situation. So we've done what we can do for the moment. I don't think federal funds are in jeopardy. Since the governor did issue the executive order, those bridges have been closed, and it's my understanding those federal funds will now not be in jeopardy. But that's the current situation as I understand it with those bridges. But I would just like to point out, we did put the $50 million there. That's available, it can be used, and I think those bridges will certainly start being addressed. The second item is, what do we do going forward? We have not stopped and have not rested in the House of Representatives since the session ended 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago. We immediately hit the ground running and began working on other proposals. The governor would like to address this issue, as would we. Again, for 2 years now, we've been trying to address the issue. We are going to, as I said, we have continued to work. We have not stopped since the session ended working on this issue. We have crafted and drafted a new proposal. It incorporates a lot of the ideas that we've had in the past, and it has tried to take some of the ideas that we have heard discussed in other places and have put them in a bill, which I'm going to deliver to the governor's office and the lieutenant governor's office for the start of discussions. What this bill does is a combination of things. I'll just kind of walk through it bullet point by bullet point, and then we can talk in greater detail if you want. This is, again, is a proposal. It is a draft that we hope will be accepted, or at least be the starting point for negotiations, and then will result in hopefully an agreement, which we can then take up in a special session as soon as we can get an agreement. Just kind of as a side note, as y'all know, the governor's practice has been not to call special sessions until agreements are made, until a bill is drafted and things come together. So he has not told me what his practice is going to be here, but I would have to believe that if or when we get an agreement, he would call a special session, but he would not do so until then. But that is, don't let me speak for the governor, okay? That's just my understanding of things. I was asked that yesterday, and that was my answer. The governor certainly has the right to call a special session when he wants to call a special session, and I'm not pretending to speak for him on that. What our proposal does, first of all, is it takes in what we already passed this session, which was House Bill 722. House Bill 722 we felt like was solid legislation, good public policy. It takes existing dollars, does not raise any taxes. It is merely taking dollars that we already get and puts them toward roads and bridges. Actually, we have labeled this as infrastructure and have included water and sewer in this bill as well. I think there are some places that might want to include water and sewer in their infrastructure needs. So we are including that as well. Currently, the most current numbers that I have show that the use tax in Mississippi brings in $315 million a year. We would take 1/3 of that money, or 35% of it, and we would put, that's about $110 million, by the way, roughly. We would take 15% of that to the cities, which is about $47 million. We would take another 15% of that and give it to the counties, which is about another $47 million. And the remaining 5% would be used to go into the LSBP program permanently. That's about $16 million roughly. So what this proposal would do is be taking existing dollars, existing use tax dollars. We'd give $47 million of that to the cities for infrastructure, $47 million of that to the counties for infrastructure, and then 5% to permanently fund the LSBP program. This is a continuous stream of money. This is perpetual. This is ongoing. And the total revenue impact here would be about $175 million at full phase in. Let me get to the second point, and then I'll talk about phase in. Don't let me forget to come back to that. The second idea is something we've been batting around for about a year now, and that is a tax swap. That's what we call it. This would be the phase out of the 4% bracket and the raising of the gas and diesel tax in an equal amount. Just for background, and y'all may already know this, if you do, I apologize, but in recent history, we had our income tax structure in Mississippi was 3% tax on the first $5,000 of income, 4% tax on the next $5,000 of income, and then 5% tax on everything above $10,000. So when you make $5,000, that first $5,000 was taxed at 3%. When you make your second $5,000, it was taxed at 4%. And when you make above $10,000, it's taxed at 10%. We phased out the 3-year income tax. Well, I think it's actually in the process of being phased out. But when we did the franchise tax a couple of years ago. So the 3% bracket has been eliminated. So the next bracket to be targeted is the 4% bracket. Under this idea, again, we would phase this in over a 4-year period of time. You would drop your 4% bracket in the first year. This would, by the way, start 2019. Will become effective July 1 of 2019. So it would impact the tax year of 2019. We would drop the 4% bracket in the first year from 4% to 3%. And at the same time, we would raise the gas tax 2 cents. Just to give you some numbers as I understand them, the 4% bracket generates currently roughly $160 million annually.
160?
160. That's rough now. We're just for the ease of math, I'm talking in general terms here. About 160. So if you phase that out over 4 years, that's about $40 million a year. So if you dropped your tax bracket from 4% to 3%, that first year, you're taking $40 million out of the general fund by doing that. Follow me? A 2 cent raise, increase of the gas tax generates about $40 million as well. Actually, I think it's a little bit more, but statistically, we're all in the ballpark there. So it's an equal swap. See what I'm saying? You're dropping one tax by 40 million, you're raising another tax by 40 million, and it's an even swap. The next year you would drop from 3% to 2%, and you'd raise your gas tax another 2 cents. Third year you'd drop from 2% to 1%, and you'd raise your gas tax 2 cents. So over a 4-year period of time, you've basically just swapped. You've decreased one tax $160 million, and you've increased the other one about $160 million. So there's no net increase in taxes. None of this proposal increases any net tax. All it does is use existing dollars to fund roads and bridges, and or shifts taxes from one area to another. We would also index the fuel tax going forward so that it would accommodate for fluctuations in inflation and whatnot. So we would not have to come back and redress this issue again. That was not done, as I understand it, in the 87 or 88 program, and that's something that this proposal plans to do. So the total impact there again is $175 million of continuous stream of revenue at phase in.
So when you're saying 2 cents, you're talking about you're going to index this. It's not actually going to be a flat 2 cents. It's going to be an index.
Well, the indexing helps accommodate for fluctuations in inflation, as I understand it. So yes, we're going to raise the tax 2 cents under this proposal. There may not be a necessity to index it. It's just the option is there if the situation arises.
It would be raised 8 cents at the end of the phase-in.
That is correct. So the total net impact at the end of 4 years would be your 4% income bracket is eliminated, and your gas tax would go up 8 cents at the end of the full phase-in. A couple of reasons for the phase-in. The main reason is it helps us to absorb it. We have talked to our appropriations chairman and said, okay, look, if we do this use tax diversion, like we're talking about, giving the money to the cities and the counties, that's about, on an annual basis, that's about $40 million. If we do the tax swap idea, that's about $40 million. If you know 2 years from now that you're going to have to do that, can you plan for that? Can you absorb that in the budget? And they feel confident that they can do that. If I just told them next year you got to find $150 million in the budget, that'd be a little more difficult to do. But if we phase it in over time and they know that 2 years from now I got to find $40 million in the budget, they can do that. They can plan for that. And then 3 years from now, and 4 years from now, and 5 years from now. So it helps all of us absorb this and deal with what we view to be a true function of government. It's just putting dollars where they should be. It's what our citizens expect of us. I will make another side comment here that this money belongs to the citizens. These are citizens' dollars. The citizens expect us to use them for the things that matter to the citizens. Roads is one of those things. I've heard a lot of talk about, well, this is our money, meaning this is the legislature's money. It's not the legislature's money. This money belongs to the citizens, and the citizens expect us to use it to address the things that are important to them and to address their needs. And we, in the House, believe roads is the function of government. We believe that's our responsibility. It's not free money to the citizens. It's not, I've heard those phrases used as well. If the cities want free money, they got to have skin in the game. Well, they got skin in the game. This is their money. This is the money that belongs to the citizens. This is not the state of Mississippi money. This is not money that we should, when I say the state of Mississippi, I mean the legislature's money. This is the money that we should be using to help the citizens. So I don't have a problem taking this money and shifting it towards roads and bridges, which is what I think we're supposed to be doing. 3 other points to this plan. The SIF fund was created, Strategic Infrastructure Investment Fund. Is that what that stands for? And what this would say is that if there's an unencumbered cash balance that at the end of the year, that we would take 1% of the budget, which is about $55 to $60 million. 1% of our budget is $55 to $60 million. then we would take that amount of money and put it into this fund for long-term infrastructure projects. It can also be used for matching federal dollars. I know there's a lot of talk about Donald Trump coming down with a plan and it's going to require matching funds. This could be used for those matching funds, and the total impact there could be up to $300 million for 5 years, as opposed to the other two, which would be perpetual, ongoing, continuous streams of revenue. We also have an emergency road, bridge, and repair fund. Many of you are familiar with the gaming sinking fund. If you're not, I might as well explain that to you. As I understand it, there was a fund created many years ago for the casinos, casino counties, called the Gaming Sinking Fund. It was designed to be a fund. This chair squeaks badly, I'm sorry. It was designed to be a fund that would help repair roads and bridges leading to gaming counties. So if you take Warren County, for example, that's a gaming county. You could take this fund and use it to repair the roads in Warren County and all adjacent counties. Y'all have to help me with my geography here, but I think you got Issaquena and Yazoo and Hines and Copiah and Claiborne maybe that all touch Warren County. So you could use this money to repair the funds in that county or the 6 adjacent counties. When you add up all the gaming counties and the adjacent counties, you end up with about 66 of the 82 counties in this state that are eligible to use these funds. We can take those funds and use them for bonding purposes and bond about $150 million. This fourth point here is what we call the Emergency Road and Bridge Repair Fund. We would bond $150 million from the Gaming Sinking Fund, and that would be used $30 million a year for 5 years to help for emergency projects like what we're experiencing here in the state right now. Total impact again would be $150 million over 5 years. And then the final point would be the $50 million in immediate road and bridge projects also funded from the Gaming Sinking Fund. This would be bonds, $50 million in bonds from the Gaming Sinking Fund for immediate road and bridge projects. So those are kind of the 5 main points of the bill. The first 2 obviously are the big 2 because they are the ones that will provide that ongoing continuous stream of revenue in the years to come. So we think this is a solution. We think this is a great policy solution to solving our road and bridge issue. It takes money from existing dollars. There is no tax increase here, and we have talked to a number of tax experts. Y'all may remember a couple of summers ago we had budget hearings throughout the summer. One of those was the Tax Foundation, Nicole Keating from the Tax Foundation. We have talked to her about the tax swap idea. You may recall from that hearing, she said, you want to have a tax structure based upon use taxes, not income taxes. In their opinion, that is a better tax. That's exactly what the tax swap does. It is taking money, it is eliminating the income tax, which she said is a poor tax upon which to base your economy, and moving it to a user tax, i.e. those who buy gasoline and use the roads. She said that's a better tax. That is the type of tax you want to have, one of the taxes upon which you want your economy based. We have said for a long time we want to move towards user taxes. This does this. So we are moving from an income tax based model here to a user tax based model with this tax swap, and the net effect is no net tax increase. I think that's just good policy.